We're live on. Everyone's going to get bored of me saying this every week. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitter. We're live on LinkedIn. I've not quite managed to master Facebook yet, but we're live on those other 3 channels. Before we start, I try and explain a little bit about what Ed and Tech Live is. So Ed and Tech Live, for those that are watching, was born out of a newsletter I pull together on LinkedIn every week called Ed and Tech Times. It's got nearly 1,000 subscribers now. And I realised pretty quickly that not everyone consumes stuff in the same way. So I decided to do a spotlight on educators, people who work in ed tech. That can be any role, on a live stream on LinkedIn. And that's turned into this Ed and Tech Live on a weekly basis, which I think is great. It gives me a chance to learn stuff from other people, and it gives people watching a chance to learn stuff from us and share if they want to in the comments. Last thing I'll say is if you've got any questions, whack them in the comments. I can put them on the screen. I'll do it at a time when there's a natural break between what Andy and I are talking about. And then the only other thing to say, then I'll say at the end, is don't forget to repost this on LinkedIn, share it, comment if you can. And if you are willing, jump over to YouTube. The handle's there, and subscribe on YouTube as well. That YouTube channel's got some other cool bits. And I've got an announcement to make at the end about Ed and Tech TV as well. So, Andy, I start off with how we met. And this usually goes the same way every week because I'm not 100% sure. So you worked with Dave and Tom for a long time. And I've known Dave and Tom for a long time, but I've got this nagging feeling I might have met you through a friend of a friend, potentially, in Chris Wright and Pete Smiley.
Yeah. You know what? That completely slipped my mind.
I'm not sure of the order, so I could have met you through work beforehand, and then realised that we got the same friends. But I got the sneaky feeling, or the same circle of friends. But I've got a sneaky feeling it's the other way around.
But yeah, the first sort of memory of us really working together and meeting each other was in the Doncaster office.
Yeah.
When I think you'd just been acquired at the time.
So,
yeah. Started working together then.
Oh, so it is definitely we've met previously through one of your friends or one of my friends then. But yeah, the first real chance we got to meet properly is through that acquisition and the Doncaster office. So if we jump straight into it, then we'll just get into it. And I always start off by asking you or the guest to just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you
do. So I got into EdTech about 17 years ago, completely by accident. Played football. I was on the bench and enjoyed going out for a drink with Chris's business partners currently, Dave and Tom. So they set up a small business, so I joined them as, for want of a better word, the junior. Did a bit of everything: sales, data entry, training. So over time, I've done all the different roles and found my way into support, really, which is where I am now, where I love being. So 17 years in that.
Wow. It's crazy, isn't it, when you start we're doing it again now. So Accelerate was founded in January last year, so I'd still class it as a startup. And you go from everybody having their own roles to everybody doing a bit of everything. You're like a jack of all trades, aren't you?
Yeah.
I think it's valuable, though. I see that as a really valuable part of my journey. It was nice to get to know what everyone does and how you do it and all that sort of stuff.
It really helps with understanding your colleagues in other roles. You know, as you evolve and define yourself in a particular role.
Yeah.
The conversations we've had in the past, we understand because we've both had seen both sides of it.
Yeah. Sorry, my phone just pinged then, and I had this, and I could see it with LinkedIn, and I had this horrible feeling that it's not streaming, but it is. So I think it's fair to say, over the time that we've worked with each other, that we've been reasonably aligned on the importance of having a partnership between support and onboarding and sales. So for those that haven't watched this before, I'm mainly from a sales background. Andy's now working in support and onboarding. And we've always felt that there needs to be a partnership between the two. So I just want to start by unpacking that a little bit and just exploring why is it important to have that relationship, in your opinion?
I think it comes down to one thing, and that's that there's nothing more frustrating than having to repeat yourself as a customer, especially when you're talking to what you perceive as the same company, the same people who, I suppose when you're speaking to somebody, you think they're working in the same office and sat next to each other.
Yeah.
When often than not. But I think that's the reason why it's so important. Is that you joined up and you're not making a customer repeat themselves.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask these 3 questions because I agree with that entirely. I'm going to ask these 3 questions in this order deliberately, and there's a reason why I've done it, which I'll get to in a minute. But when do you think it's important?
I think it's always important, but it's more important when things aren't going smoothly. So when you're coming up against challenges, when you've got perhaps bigger customers that you're trying to look after, it's very easy for things to go wrong and things to slip through the net if you've not got that communication.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a cop out, really, but it's always important.
Any handover point is like really crucial as well,
Yeah.
isn't it? Though you want the customer to not realise that there's a handover, and
Absolutely.
to do that, you've got to be communicating, like you say. And then, what are the benefits for both the customer and for the business?
So when you're onboarding a new customer, it's important for them to realise value as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And the quicker they realise value, the quicker they're not gonna regret doing business with you. The quicker they get into that BAU cycle, and the more likely they are to trust you and then come back and buy again.
Yeah.
So that comes back to your side of it. Of well, how does that help sales? It just goes around in circles.
Yeah, 100%. And the reason I asked those 3 questions, is because we didn't really have a chance to talk much before. There's not an awful lot of planning gone into this episode because I've been away last week. So I think I released the title of the episode and didn't actually talk to you about it. And I'd really released the title as, if my memory serves me right, because I can't see it on the screen, Turning Complete Strangers into Advocates. And to do that, everybody's got to be aligned. So the first interaction right through to the most recent interactions, there's not one that's more important, and everybody has to play the part. And I think when I say everyone's got to play the part, I think support probably play the biggest part because it's where you get the calls when stuff's not going well.
Absolutely. I think support do, but from first impressions really count.
Yeah.
You make first impression as a sales entity, but then as soon as you become a customer, you then first impression as a customer, and that's onboarding, and that sets the tone for the rest of the relationship. If that goes wrong, then through the support, there's going to be problems through support, through the renewal life cycle.
Yeah.
And you're onto a rocky road there.
I've managed salespeople in my time who don't see gathering any information from onboarding as part of their role. And I always have to fire back with that and say, it will become your role if you don't do it properly. If you don't do it at the right time and you don't do it up front, who's the customer going to call? Because you've not handed over the relationship properly. They're going to call you, and I want you selling. I don't want you doing the support work. I want you selling. But you've got to front load it.
And it's all right to talk about it not being the role, but it's going back to the benefits of it. If they make that's part of getting another sale, right? Because it sets the relationship up better.
Yeah.
So recommendations, etc., come back from that. But I think really it's not. I know we talk about people saying it's not their role. I think the biggest challenge is for us as leaders to make it more seamless for them. So they're not having to fill in another form, because I think it shouldn't be their role to go and duplicate data and do it in multiple places. We've got to join that up a lot more seamlessly. And me and you did that. Made a good dint in that when we worked together.
I can remember you shared with sales. This was more onboarding than support, but where you've got capacity and where you aren't, so we can manage customer expectations early in the cycle and stuff. Did some really cool analysis on that. Sorry, I've got a sty and I'm like rubbing my. Got some really cool analysis on that, and it allowed us to not just work seamlessly together, but to manage customer expectations as well. And I dare say, and I don't know if I should say any, but it allowed me as a salesperson to apply urgency as well. Because I could genuinely say to a customer and truthfully say to a customer, if you can't sign by X, I'm really going to struggle to get you onboarded by Y, because I'm looking at the capacity of the team now, and I can genuinely see that we've only got 2 slots left. So it allowed me to truthfully manage expectations and create a little bit of urgency around the sale as well. There's a danger we could talk about that question all day, so I'm going to try and move smoothly into, and I'm not trying to insult you here by using the term a number of years, but you've been immersed in this world now for a number of years. You said 17. Does it make you feel old?
Yeah.
When did you realise the true value of having a really solid support team?
So I want to break this down a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I think it actually started with working with Dave and Tom at O-Track, because although we weren't a support team, the whole ethos of the business was around you get sales through supporting customers and doing what's right. And it's all the benefits of that. And as soon as you realize that recommendations and good relationships and doing right by customers is what generates business, it's really easy to see the value in a really strong support team. And the way that we worked only works to a certain size, right? And that's when it does become about the team, and the value in that has always been apparent.
Yeah. Was there a second part, or?
No, I think I just naturally flew into the into the sport team thing. I really wanted to focus on the emphasis of actually how how it was just second nature to us as a business. To support.
Always is when it's customer first. I think you naturally find your way when everybody's aligned and focused on customer need first. Was the I'm sideswiping you a little bit here because I've not talked to you about this before, but it's along the same line. Was the defining moment? Was the, actually no, park that, because I've got a similar question later. So let's park it, and I'll ask you. And again, I might have covered some of this, but what does good communication between support and the rest of the business look like, in your opinion? How do you know when you've got it right?
I think it's a really difficult thing to get right, and I think it's always evolving. It's always changing. But I think transparency and free flowing information is key to that. It's no good holding on to, from a sales point of view, a pipeline, say no transparency about when that might land, whether there's any accuracy around that, or because then onboarding and end up with a backlog and unable to deliver, and it just you end up in a terrible cycle of people getting frustrated with each other. So I think the key to it is definitely transparency and free flowing information, and when you've got that right when you're not having to think about it.
A bit like a good referee. You've got a good referee when you don't know they're there, kind of thing.
When no one's ringing you saying, "Oh, so and so's done this," and I don't know what's happening. When that's not happening, you're on the right track.
How important are systems in that? I mean, you'll use loads of different systems, I'm guessing.
Very important, because when you think about the number of people that you've got in the teams and the different, I think you touched on it at the start about the way people learn and the way people exchange information. We could sit on a call every Monday morning and tell everybody, this is the pipeline, this is what we're working on. It'll go in one ear, out the other. It needs to be there in a system that's easily accessible to the team that they work in day to day. It's no good saying to a sales team, go and look in our support system, or the support team, go and look in our CRM, because they're not in there day to day. You've got to get that information surfaced at the right time in the right system for that person.
And I'm guessing you've got experience of, I asked that question and said between support and the rest of the business, but I'm guessing over time you've got those flows right with customers as well. I've missed the key person in all of that, haven't I?
The easiest flow is with the customer. I think the more challenging one is internally, because you've all got your competing priorities.
Yeah.
Your priority for all of you, your priority is the customer, but you've all got different targets that you've got to achieve and different ways to achieve those. So communication and free flowing information there is key. I think the wider business systems as well. It's not just sales that we work with; it's the development teams, production teams that are all working in the background that the customer never sees. If everything goes right, they should be working in the background, and we're the face of that.
I read something earlier this week which intrigued me enough to I've put it to one side, and I'm going to read more about it at the weekend. But they were talking about there's no such thing as a buyer's journey. So I think just about every business I've worked in is at some point, not always, but at some point, fixated on the buyer's journey or the customer journey. And they were saying that it's a myth; it doesn't exist because no two buyers are the same. And actually, what you need to do is align the journey within your business in a way that means that every buyer can drop into it somewhere. Now, I found it really interesting, and I don't think I've dug around it enough, but I'm definitely going to do a bit more picking. Is that something that what would your view be? Because you've all dealt with hundreds of customers.
It's really interesting, and dealing with so many different products as well. Every time you deal with a different product, someone's, no, our customers are very different. But ultimately, they're a customer wanting to realise value in the software they've purchased. And I'm talking about software here. I've got no experience in selling services and whatever else we've got. But, ultimately, the journey is the same.
Yeah.
You've just got to tailor that and tweak that to the audience. So there might be two ways to take that journey.
Yeah.
Like you said, you might drop in here because no two customers are the same. And I remember a couple of years ago, we landed a big contract for a group of schools, and I ended up having to do the onboarding myself because it was so niche and so bespoke. We had to work together to tailor that customer journey, but we still followed the same principles of handing over the information, finding out what the customer wanted, checking in with them to make sure they'd got the value at the time that we expected them to. I think there is a journey there that's consistent.
Yeah, I like the word principles as well, though. The principles will always be the same, won't they? If you've got that right, they'll always be the same. We've got a question come in. Might not surprise you.
I thought he might ask something.
It's from Tom. So if you could have a magic wand to create any technology, what would you get it to create that's not already available that will help customers realize value faster?
The that's not already available is the
it's a big caveat, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's so many good things out there, but I don't think we use them enough. And sometimes they're not implemented right, because you think about we've got to drive more self-service. So whatever tool it is, it's got to be about self-service. The days of live training that's booked in for a week on Friday and I'm on board today are no good, because you want to log in, you want to have a play, and it needs to be intuitive, and where it's not, there needs to be inbuilt help to take you through that. So I don't think I've got an answer for you there, Tom.
I think you answered it. I think what you're saying is that there's not a tool that you create. It's not the tool; it's the implementation that's important.
It is the implementation that's important, and I think definitely the walkthrough stuff is the really exciting piece in this. I think that's the most important thing to get customers to value faster, and perhaps it's dovetailing that with things that with how you roll out the software, rather than if you've got something quite large, just rolling out a subset of that and making sure the customer follows the journey that you want them to follow through.
Nice. So, and I forgot where I'm up to now. Did I ask you about managing? No, I haven't. So you've successfully managed a multi-product support desk. Is there any one thing that anyone listening should do to have the same success that you've had?
I think using people to the strengths and just acknowledging that you're not the fountain of all knowledge is the key to that. So play into the people with the domain specialists.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest challenge with that is making sure that you get the information that those people hold into a centralized knowledge bank, and that way you can cross skill and help people on a larger scale, because you end up with bottlenecks if when you're dealing with so many different products, you've only got to find out amount of resource, and if it's only 2 or 3 experts on each product, you're not going to be able to scale. So you've got to document that and really make use of a good knowledge base.
Similar to what we do in sales there. You'd always roll out the domain expert when you're at a certain stage, because you want them to be a trusted advisor, and you want the other person to know that within your business you've got the knowledge and expertise that's required to tick the box. So I think it's similar.
But you can't put them on every call, can you? So,
no.
So as long as you've got those, they're the source of the information. That's the important thing.
Yeah, makes sense. We might cover that later. I've got a question that might tease something aligned to that out. I don't know. We'll see. So looking back, I asked you about a defining moment earlier, but do you have a memorable story about an interaction that was challenging from a support point of view and later turned into a positive relationship, and maybe turn that customer into an advocate potentially?
Yeah, I mean, I can steal some of Tom and Dave's because they built so many good relationships up with with customers. But there's one that springs to mind for me in particular, and that was pre-COVID. So it's quite a while ago now. A customer had got Ofsted in, so we all know it's like when they're in, start getting panicked. Software's not working how it should. Luckily, they ring the help desk, because the worst thing you can do is get frustrated and not do that. And we were able to help. They called up quite frustrated and irate that it wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. That was de-escalated. We went above and beyond and actually ran reports and asked them the questions that they were being asked by Ofsted, so they didn't need to go and look where they wanted to look. So we pulled that information out to make it easier for them, sent it over to them, and reassured them that if they needed anything else to reach back out to us. And we thought nothing else of it for a few days, and then we get a delivery through the post, and I keep this on my desk actually, and it's a little note that was attached to it that says thank you, essentially, and now we're valuable, we're as a team. So I think that just reminds me why we do it.
I don't think enough customers do that, or people, if it's service related. I think we're always quick to jump on a negative. So if you look at Google reviews, for example, I don't pay much attention to Google reviews because most people review when it's bad, don't they?
Yeah.
I think we need to get better at either reviewing or thanking or whatever whenever it's good. So I quite like that you had a customer that did that.
It really stood out, and we've had a few customers that have done it over the years, but this one stood out, and I think that just elaborate on that and coming back onto the topic of advocates. That actually led to us expanding in that area because they recommended other schools. So it just shows the relationship between that support can play, because customers are coming to you at the lowest point when they're facing a challenge and they need that help. And it's a real good place to be able to help them. And then they're only going to be grateful to you and recommend you off the back of it.
So sticking to that example, if you're an edtech business, don't forget how valuable support can be as part of your sales arsenal as well, because it definitely can create opportunities for you. I also think that story, it's really sad that the amount of pressure, and this is my personal opinion, so I'm gonna own my opinion, that Ofsted places on schools, that they're that panicked when that phone rings that they rush around and they just forget what sometimes the day-to-day stuff. And maybe there's a lesson in it as well if you've got a product that customers use. I don't know if this is the case, Andy, and we'll not delve into it, but I've worked with businesses where the product that they supply is a cyclical product, so it's used maybe once a term or once every 3, 6, 4 months, whatever. And people forget if you're only logging in once every term or whatever, people forget how to use the system. So maybe there's something for businesses that work like that where you can be proactive and get stuff out in advance and say, look, it's coming up to this time, etc., etc., etc.
I think there is, and that's where customer success comes in ultimately, for us. But if there's one piece of advice I could give to a customer, and my partner Emerald, she's a teacher as well, and she uses a competitor of ours,
Right.
and she it's one of those things you use once a term as an example, and she phoned the help desk, and the help desk went above and beyond. And she was like, I'm glad I did, because I wouldn't normally have done that. I'd have struggled myself, not realizing. But there are help desks out there for a reason. They're there to help.
Actually, really good point.
So use them.
Yeah, definitely. We try it. It's like flat pack furniture. No one reads instructions, do they? So AI, this is the question that I thought might head towards where we were talking about earlier, but AI is a buzz thing. Everyone's talking about it. In fact, I've been talking about it today several times. What role do you see it playing in support, or do you see it playing a role in support?
It's evolving so quickly at the minute. It's difficult to say exactly where it'll land.
Yeah.
My personal view on it right now is that we shouldn't be unleashing it on customers. It's something that's it's an assistant to an agent. It's something that'll go, here's the help guide that'll talk you through what you need to do, or even categorizing tickets in the right way so you're prioritizing them correctly, rather than something that types out a response to a customer that's not human. We still need that human interaction and still sense checking, if you like.
Yeah, from a support. I get what you're saying, because it's support related. If it gets it wrong, it amplifies the problem rather than finds a solution, doesn't it?
And that's the problem with AI right now. The way it behaves is, if there's a problem in it, it's going to cause you. The problem's going to be 10 times as big as if that was a single agent making that mistake.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to have caution around it. And I know there's so much being released at the moment in so many different angles, but I think the stage we're at right now, it's got to be about helping the agents be more efficient, be more effective, and then they can help coach it. They can do more technical things, make more of an impact elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of AI. I've not really thought of it from a support point of view, to be fair. I just think it's one of those things. If you remember when we got these, so we all got smartphones, and all we did on the smartphones was pretend to shoot as mates, and it made a like gun noise, or we drank a pint of beer, and nobody actually unleashed the full power of the smartphone, did they? I think that's where we're at with AI a little bit at the moment, where we're playing around with it, but there's sooner or later we're going to unleash the full power of it, and when we do, it'll change lives. Like these things have changed lives for it, but you just don't know what it's going to look like, do you? So you got to apply some caution.
It's definitely already changing lives. It's just the direction and the scale that it's going to actually get to.
Yeah,
that I think is the question, and making sure it's safe and used in the right context.
Yeah,
it's not there to do your job. It's not there to completely take the customer on that journey. It's there to make it easier.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, makes sense. So 2 quick fire questions then that I ask every week of everyone. One thing that you've seen while working in schools that's made you go, wow, that's really making a difference. You can name stuff if you want, but you don't have to. I usually get asked that question, but
I'm going to answer it from a parent point of view,
nice.
Because a lot of the stuff I see is back office stuff. But things like times tables, rock stars, things like that. Seeing my children come home who are not particularly engaged in multiplication, but actually, over time, I'm top of the leaderboard. I'm doing this, and all of a sudden, he's sat in the back of the car. Just these are these are the times tables, and I can't do them.
Yeah.
So I think learning through gamification is pretty.
Dave tells a pretty cool story about actually somebody who I'm going to have as a guest on in a few weeks. We're just nailing a date down now. Chris Dyson. Dave tells a story about going out to He might slap me, can't hear me, and he's within striking distance. But he tells a story about going out to see Chris's school and the children using timetables rock stars and like being absolutely amazing, and him there trembling in fear at him being called up on stage and having to battle a year 5 kid who was going to beat him at times tables.
Year 5, but it wasn't year 5, it was year 1.
Oh, year 1, sorry, not year 5, year 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm all for gamification. In fact, I had a guest on a couple of weeks ago as well, Richard Cowie, who's done something similar to timetables rock stars in reading. Anything that engages kids in their education has got to be a winner on it. And then second to last question. If you've watched this before, which I know you have, you know I'm going to say one book or podcast that you'd recommend to everyone listening and why, but you also know I'm going to caveat it with nobody else has listened to me, so just do whatever you want. It's free for all.
I'll go for 5 then.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go for 2 books that were recommended by the same person to me.
Yeah.
The first one I was forced to read, which is 7 Effective Habits.
Read it. Great book.
Tom's a big fan of that one as well.
Yeah.
You know, I joke all the time about how big it is and how I didn't want to read it, but I find myself referring back to it every day.
I was just going to say that it's one of those books that becomes a bit of a Bible, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely, and it really helps you understand, you know, question things and understand things from other people's perspectives.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing I took away from that book.
Invaluable in sport.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then the other one is the chimp paradox one. Because I think there's so many people out there now that imposter syndrome is a big thing, isn't it? And I think that's a really good book to get your head around how your mind works.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard the term imposter syndrome used as much as I have done recently.
Yeah, it's just it's used all the time, and I think a book like that really helps you unpick that.
So it's another one where I'm going to end saying I've learned loads. Not just on the podcast from yourself. We worked together for a number of years, so I've learned a lot of stuff from you in the past as well. I'm sure those listening have picked some stuff up, but I'm conscious these are 20 to 30 minutes. So if people listening want to dig a bit deeper or they want to know a bit more about Andy, where's the best place for people to find you?
LinkedIn.
I'm going to say I'd recommend you don't give out your home address.
I don't use social media generally, but LinkedIn is generally where you'll find me.
Yeah. Okay. I'll tag. Obviously, you're tagged in the live anyway, so people will be able to get you from that. So a couple of things left for me to say before we wrap up. I've just realised this is the first week I've drank anything other than water on the show, so I don't know if legally I have to say there are other brands available. I do like my Oasis though. I also need to say that I am looking for guests to join the podcast from the 30th of May on inclusive. So if anybody out there fancies taking part, then drop me a message and we can have a quick chat. And then I think this is an exciting announcement. So I mentioned earlier that we've got Ed and Tech Times, which is the newsletter. We've got Ed and Tech Live, which is this live show. We have now gone live with Ed and Tech TV on YouTube as well. And part of that move to Ed and Tech TV has seen us today set up a WhatsApp channel as well. So I'll share the WhatsApp channel in the group. It's just a place where you'll get all the podcasts, everything anonymously. So if you wanted to just join the group, anything we release, you'll get it anonymously, but you'll be able to interact with thumbs up, thumbs down and tell us what you're thinking. And we will poll the group in there as well. As always, thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to repost, share, like, subscribe, do the same on YouTube. Thanks, Andy, and thanks everyone for